Hey, it's Mr. Carr again, and today we're going to be talking about 5.2. We're going to start talking about what's called polynomial division. So we focused on the previous lesson on adding, subtracting polynomials, as well as multiplying with polynomials. So now we get to talk about division. Today is going to be long division. So if you kind of remember how to simplify this in this kind of term here, not square root, but division, 681,215. That's very close to what we're doing today. So it's going to be related to what we do with that. All right. So let's start with this. If we divide a polynomial by a monomial, so here my polynomial is 5a squared b minus 15ab third plus 10a to the third b to the fourth, all divided by 5ab. So when a polynomial is divided by a monomial, then let's rewrite the polynomial with each term having the denominator. Because remember, this is like saying three fractions divided by a common denominator of 5ab. So that's what I'm going to do to start. 5a squared b over 5ab minus 15ab to the third over 5ab plus 10a to the third b to the fourth over 5ab. So we separate as three fractions. Now simplify each term. Now we get to apply the properties we talked about in the previous lesson. So we'll start with, not like for my first term, I got 5 divided by 5 here. So that's just going to go to a 1. So those will go away. I have a to the second divided by a. So I can do that as a to the 2 minus 1 there. And then I got b over b. So those will actually just cancel each other out. So my first term will just simplify to a to the first power. Okay. My second one, I got 15 divided by 5. So that is going to turn into, I'll do it here, 3 here. Okay, so 15 divided by 5 between those two numbers. I have a divided by a, so those are actually just going to cancel each other out to 1 and 1. And then I have b to the 3 minus 1 here, so I can subtract those two. So that turns into 3b to the second power. And my final one, I've got 10 divided by 5 is going to give me a positive 2. A to the third over a will be a to the 3 minus 1 here. And then b to the fourth over b will be b to the 4 minus 1. So again, I'm just subtracting the lower ones from the upper ones. So simplify that, that'll be 2a squared b to the third power. So that's all we're doing here is simplifying each term separately. Okay, up right there. A minus 3b squared plus 2a squared b to the third. Okay, division algorithm. So an algorithm is just basically a process that we're just repeating the same steps over and over and over again until we get it simplified. So we're going to use long division to show how to divide this polynomial by this binomial. So you're going to actually do kind of like I showed up in the very first problem. Set up a long division problem with the divisor and dividend. This is my dividend. This is my divisor. So here's how it looks. I have 6x to the fourth minus 8x to the third. And it doesn't show here. You notice how it jumps from x to the third to x. So I'm going to still show x squared as being 0x squared. This doesn't change the problem. I want that to still be, yeah, right here. Fill in any missing terms with zeros. So since I'm skipping x squared, I'm going to put a 0x squared there. Then plus 12x minus 14. Here's my division symbol. Then I'll put x minus 2 right here. So now that that's set up, the goal is to perform my long division. What I need to just focus on is the first, basically the first thing is x compared with everything else. Okay. And so what I mean by that is if I were to try to do division, I would say how many times does x go into 6x to the fourth? Well, that would look like 6x to the third power. The next step is I'm going to take this and multiply it to both of these. I'm distributing this idea. I'm going to write off to the side. So this is what I'm actually going to multiply to get what goes below. So 6x to the third times x is 6x to the fourth. 6x times a negative 2 is a negative 12x to the third. Just like with long division, once you have a number below, you go backwards and do the multiplication between these two. We take this and subtract it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the opposite of both of those terms. So that turns into instead of it was a positive negative, now it's going to be negative positive. So subtracting that away, that will cancel out. I have negative 8x to the third plus 12x to the third is going to give me 4x to the third. Just like the other long division, the next thing will drop down. So I got 0x squared now. The process is going to repeat. If I compare x to 4x to the third, how do I make it look like that, basically? I'm going to do a positive 4x squared. And then again, I'm going to take this and distribute it with x minus 2. So it looks like this. It'll be 4x squared times x minus 2. So I do that. That's going to give me 4x to the third, and then minus 8x squared. Okay. And now the process again is I'm going to subtract this level. I'm subtracting the whole thing. So that means I'm going to take that as a negative and then a positive. So that's gone, and I'm left with 8x squared. And we'll drop down the next thing. So that's a positive 12x now. Okay. So again, if I compare x to 8x squared, that is going to be a positive 8x squared here. So the multiplication I'm doing is, oops, sorry about that. I wrote 8x squared. It should have just been an 8x. Okay. Because if I take 8x times x minus 2, I will get my 8x squared from that. So 8x times x is 8x squared. 8x times a negative 2 is a negative 16x. And then we go and subtract both of these. So it's going to be negative and a positive. So 12x plus 16x is going to give me 28x. And then I could bring this down here as a negative 14. So this will be the last one because now I compare x times what gives me my 28x. It'll be a positive, shoot, I did that wrong. Okay, so I want to multiply by x minus 2. And the goal is to get me to 28x. So that gets multiplied by 28. Okay, so I'm going to put a 28 up here, and I multiply that out. So 28 times x is 28x. 28 times a negative 2 is a negative 56. Last step there, subtract that, we add that. So that goes away, and I have a number of negative 14 plus 56 is going to give me a positive 42. Now, if I try to ask the question, what do I have to do to x to make it look like 42? That doesn't quite work. Okay, I was able to take x cubed times x to get to the x to the fourth. I was able to take x squared times x. Okay, those all worked. I don't have anything that works here. So this is my remainder. Since I have a remainder, I'm going to add that. I'm a little out of space here. So basically, okay, let me just shift things down a little bit. There we go. We'll take that. Yeah, it's fine. So let's shift that down just a little bit. Okay, that gives me a little bit more space here. Get rid of that. That. Okay. All right. So now that I have a remainder, basically we take a remainder and we add it up here as plus 42. And we put the 42 over my x minus 2. So it looks like this. Okay. And that's it for my long division. That's the goal. So again, we set up the division problem like this right here, put the dividend and the divisor like that. And I'm just comparing my x to whatever terms are in here. So x times 6x to the third gives me 6x to the fourth. And then I subtract it to cancel out, and so on and so on. Okay. This one is going to be a similar thing because it's written like this: 2 minus a raised to the negative 1 power. That is the same as saying this. It is a squared minus 5a plus 3 over 2 minus a. Okay, so that's what I'm really doing here. I'm doing division again. So if I do that, let's start with a squared minus 5a plus 3. And I'm going to go ahead and shift that down a little bit. Okay. Nope, sorry. Try that again. There we go. All right, and so now I've set up my division problem here. Instead of 2 minus a, I'm going to leave it as negative a plus 2. Okay, that's going to be better to do here because I'm comparing a to a squared. So what do I have to multiply negative a by to get to a squared? We'll multiply by a negative a. So again, I distribute that out. I'm going to be taking negative a times negative a plus 2. That'll give me a positive a squared and a negative 2a. Subtract these. I've got negative here and a positive here. So that way that cancels out. Negative 5 plus 2 is a negative 3a. And then we'll drop down the positive 3. So negative a, how do I make it look like a negative 3a? We just multiply by a positive 3 now. So I'll be taking 3 times the negative a plus 2. So that's going to give me a negative 3a plus 6. Take opposite that, I get a negative 3. And that is my remainder. So I'm going to have, for my final answer, negative a plus 3 minus 3 over, and I can leave it as negative a plus, negative a plus 2, like that. Or I can switch it around and make it 2 minus a. Negative a plus 3 minus 3 over 2 minus a. Okay, and there's my final answer for that problem. Okay, and that is it for examples. So again, long division works kind of like with our numbers. All right, that's it, everybody. Take care.